Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Woodward Visionary. We are sitting with two dedicated Michigan professionals who want to see our state grow. And they are dedicated to the state because they're actually helping more than most people do, because they actually dedicate a little bit of money, maybe a lot of money, but more importantly, they dedicate their time to helping improve this state. And that is what a visionary is, somebody who envisions the future and says, if I take these actionable steps, we may be able to get to a brighter future. So Alexander Page, David Haddad, thank you very much for joining us on the Woodward Visionary today.
Thank you. Thank you, M1 Studios, for hosting us today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for having us here. We really appreciate it.
Yes, I am Matthew Peach today, your visionary leader for the Woodward Visionary. So I first want to talk about how we got here and what we're here to talk about, and that is the Michigan Film Industry Association's job package. And we're trying to bring these multimedia jobs back to Michigan. Now, you guys have been at this a little while, and I have the honor to have joined this board with you as well and be able to learn from you both and see you in action. But I first would like to talk about, how did we get here from the industry standpoint? And then we'll talk a little bit more about where we're going.
Well, we started 7 years ago. A group of people got together and had meetings every month. What could we do to bring a film incentive forward in Michigan? There's 105 programs currently worldwide, of which 45 are in the United States. So we struggled along and eventually we formed the association MiFIA with the idea of creating bills. And then I had the pleasure of meeting Alexander 4 years ago. Everybody kept talking about Alexander. I'm like, the frick is Alexander, right? And then he has been a rock star on our journey and really is a legislative genius. So I'm more of a marketing guy, work in the transportation community and film industry. Our company's been around for the movies for 45 years. And, it just was so annoying when they canceled the program here. So everything is in the rearview mirror. We're excited about the future. We'll be talking about that today. And let me pass it to my compadre here, add on from his.
Thank you. I'm Alexander Page, and I'm a producer-director. And one of the things that was really interesting is, to David's point, 7 years ago, there was two guys who had an idea about trying to bring back a program who were in the Grip and Electric department. And David had met them, and they started this group. And I want to say just before COVID, they had a kind of a nice little soft launch where they were trying to reach out to the Michigan community to see if this was something that they were interested in. So they had this great idea, and I was invited to that group. And that's when I met David and everybody else. And the energy and the excitement for trying to grow Michigan was just enthralling. And I just kind of raised my hand and said, hey, how do I help? And next thing you know, here we are 5 years later, kind of moving this program along. And I think that a lot of people forget about, and I think David for this was it's been a 7-long journey, and it's been a tirelessly group of effort from the grassroots. This is all by Michigan people for Michigan people. And I think that's the most inspiring part, is that it's all of your crew, your producers, your directors, your vendors, and just everybody getting together collectively and saying, I don't want to be elsewhere. I want to be here.
I think Alexander's quote of the day or quote of the month was, great ideas don't die. So this whole idea of bringing the incentive to Michigan, a world-class state, is just not going to go away. We're going to be resilient, resolute, building momentum. And it's a pleasure to be here to talk about it.
Yeah, I was starting my career just before the incentives came here the first time, right? And I was kind of getting my feet on the ground, and all of a sudden, here comes these big projects coming into town, and I was able to get on a lot of them. And as somebody who had never been out to Hollywood, only got to work with those players, when it came to my backyard, it provided such unique opportunities as a crew member and also as a business owner. And to see that energy come back a little bit here and there, the passion has never left here. And one of the things we've been able to build here at M1 Studios is we're a SAG-approved remote recording location. So I still get a real good pulse on how many people have stayed here and how many actors live here and how many crew members make Michigan their home and they travel outside of the state to go get work. And that's been going on for a decade. I can't think of another state that sends more talented people away from their state to work that still live in their community here, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why we work so hard is because there is the space here, to your point, David. It's not going away.
The program, just the reference, because there's in politics, politics is equal to confusion, right? Nobody really knows what's going on. When the film incentives went away, they didn't go away because of the film incentive on its own merit. It went away because there were 27 incentive programs, and we were one of 27 that went away. And then the false narrative, as they say, was that nobody liked the film incentive. It just got caught up as collateral damage. So with that knowledge, we have been lobbying and educating MiFIA, the trade group. Its main mission is to educate. So we educate the House, the Senate, and the governors and to advocate for the program. So that's all in the past. Going forward with 105 programs worldwide, just on a sort of like scales, geez, there can't be that many people wrong in the world. So we want to get our piece. We want to provide Stop the Brain Drain in Michigan. We think it's a viable place. It hasn't been shot here in a decade, 15 years. So, I mean, the timing is right. The university, you want to comment on the universities, how excited they were about this?
Yeah, so I think, one of the big things to David's point is, first you look at, the old program was part of the Great Recession. So it was, built for the short-term work. This last go around, part of the big thing is making it the Multimedia Jobs Act. So it's TV, commercials, industrials, any type of multimedia is a big part of it. And then you partner that with our universities. One of the fastest growing areas in the university settings in Michigan is not just multimedia production, but the creative arts. And we're losing over 50% of our students out of state. So, but it being one of the fastest growing sectors of the university, we're losing all of that talent because there's no place for them to work here. And so we want to be able to have an opportunity for people to work and stay here. Why are we training all of this great talent and having this great crew base, but having them have to go someplace else to work?
And we cannot be competitive if we don't have an incentive program. And it's the realization of, if we want to stop the brain drain, if we want to have our children stay here, if we want the tax base, the population to increase in the cultures areas, we have to compete. And the only way to do it is with an incentive that is smartly written. The program that was here before was written at best efforts, as we found out later, poorly. Georgia and other states learn from us. The American way is we learn from each other. We accept that, we could have done that better. And then, Alexander, his point, and his team has examined the majority of this program. And now we have smart, nifty bills, which actually we should that's where we're going to go forward, right?
Yeah.
We're just kind of talking about the past, but we have a smart, nifty bills that is, and I just want to emphasize before we get off this, it is bipartisan. The Michigan state is a little wonky and craziness and Lansing, but this program was supported by both R's and D's and the House, and which is a statement that, in the midst of all this confusion, we have something that everybody can agree on.
Yeah, and I'd say that, when you think about it, especially in the U.S., I mean, with over 40 programs in states and cities, they're bipartisan. They're both Republican and Democratic states. This is a business decision, not a political decision. And I think that's kind of where, when you look at where we've come to kind of David's point is that, not only when this idea came about 7 years ago, it's been a organic evolution where, we are not only looking at other states and other programs that what worked and what didn't, but we're talking to those states to figure out what they would do differently. We brought in economists. We talked to the actual state government here to figure out, what happened last time, how it would work better. And I think the biggest things is this was written by Michigan workers for Michigan workers and trying to find what's best for the state and not what's best for Hollywood. And I think that's kind of been the guiding mission along the way. And you look at, I think when David said about my comment earlier, a great idea doesn't die. And then that's part of the thing when you do politics of bills. My favorite thing is Schoolhouse Rock, and committees of where bills go to die. Well, they say that because it just takes a lot of time and it's a lot of effort to move bills forward. And we went from 7 years ago just being a group of people with an idea to having bills brought all the way up and get out of committee and got to the full floor. So I think that's kind of the important part of where the history is the last, 6 years.
I think as people try to get their head around it, they default to politics, but the R's and D's, and in fact, this is when I say it's bipartisan. So you have New York and California, which are blue states that are extremely supportive, and you have Georgia, which is a large program, and you have Texas now. You have Taylor Sheridan down there. There are states. So it's not really a D issue or an R issue. It's a film community issue, and it's about jobs and infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think, we are a manufacturing industry. And I think that's one of the things that people forget. Last night was the Oscars, and one of the big comments was, all of the crew members that go unseen to make this. And that's the reality. Most of the work is all being done by craftspeople. And I think, what's so interesting about this business is maybe 50% of a movie, TV show, or commercial is actually film related. The other 50% is all the businesses that support it. We're talking construction, hair, makeup, transportation, restaurants.
Yeah, it's over 70 different businesses, right? That are touched. And I think from an economic standpoint, that's really important to remember that this isn't just Hollywood coming in and making a project and leaving, that this is a project coming to the state and we're manufacturing that product here with Michigan talent, Michigan locations, and we're empowering and growing Michigan businesses. Some of the small businesses I know have had their best years when those film incentives were here.
Right? Did you guys notice the commercials? I think it was Prudential, where they were showing actual like set decorators and hair people. I don't know what that was like to normal citizens, but I thought it was quite rewarding that the Academy would take the time, well, through the commercial company paid for it, but take the time to actually illuminate the different jobs, because what we're talking about is workforce development, right? Basically jobs. And then they said there were 1 billion people watching. I don't know if that was true of the Oscars, but whoever was watching might have gotten an itch or a molecule of thought. It's like, wow, maybe I can get a job in the film industry. I like that.
Oh, well, it's great because they were showing stunt people, hair, makeup, editors, production designers, and those are all of the craft people that just make and help us manufacture TV shows, commercials, and movies. And it's one of right now. I think the coolest part is the creative economy is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It is top 5. And the other thing about that is when you think about the manufacturing, the resources, human capital, and expertise. So that is what's so inspiring, is that you're growing and supporting people.
I do want to point out for those of you who are listening, these are 60 to 70-hour week jobs. You have to be emotionally involved. You have to be obsessive compulsive in a good way. So it's just, if somebody wants to come in and wants to work 8 hours a day, that's just never going to happen. You've got to be committed to be part of it.
No, it's passion-driven industry, right? Absolutely. You have to love what you're doing to be there, right?
You got to love it every minute of the good days and the bad days.
That's part of it, yeah. And that, I think that's something almost any business owner can relate to, right? And putting their time and effort into something that they're hoping is going to work 70, 80 hours. You don't know what the final product's going to look like because you're just part of a moving, one of the cogs in the wheel, if you will. The bigger the crews, the more moving parts there are, the more challenges that are, higher risk, higher rewards, all that. But I want to get to kind of how far we push the line as an organization of MiFIA. And because this is the furthest I've seen us get in a long time, ever, right? And to see our organization go from, there's some film people and they want to see some programs, to we're represented, that we're being invited, where people are familiar with you, and when you show up in Lansing, they walk up to you, they say hello, baby guys. It's crazy. Those guys are here. Let's go. You know what I mean? But you're not just some guy in the corner now. Like we have a presence. We are well known. We're respected because we're bipartisan. We're not trying to push an agenda, right? We're trying to grow jobs in this state. So let's talk about how far we've gotten and in pushing that line.
Could we start?
Pass the try. Yeah.
So we raised the trade group, MiFIA, through many, many volunteers. And I do want to point out that all of the board people work for free. And we don't get reimbursed for everybody expenses, hotel rooms, airline flights. It comes out of pocket. So everyone that's on the board is passionate about moving the agenda forward. So the fundraising is a critical part that nobody likes to do and nobody likes to talk about, but we can't exist without it. And as we move forward, going down this year, you'll watch for those of you or viewers who are watching this, watch for during March, the end of March, you'll start seeing a reformatted campaigning as we try to raise money again. Alexander will talk later. There's going to be new bills coming because the bills expired at the end of the year. Last year, it's 2 years is the process. It's normal, along with hundreds of other bills, which Alexander will talk about how we got here. And then our pathway forward would be for the bills to be written. We're currently working on our deck and our campaigning to raise money. And then we're continuing our education of the House and the Senate. Pass it down to you.
And I think, David's point is accurate. Not just the board, but the entire community is all passion driven. We're volunteers. This is something that we just value immensely because we know how it works elsewhere and we see the benefits of how it changes communities and states. That being said, we got real lucky that when we had that meeting right before COVID about does the state feel interested, and we had a resounding yes. Well, COVID changed the way that you interact with your politicians and your legislators. And so normally that would have required going up to Lansing every single day in person. And because of Zoom, we were able to then remotely come and meet with tons and tons of legislators to educate and advocate. And that, I think, was the reason that we were able to skyrocket from this little group to all of a sudden, hey, you guys are trying to bring a Multimedia Jobs Act here. So that first go around, we just had a bill sponsor get a bill together and introduce it in lame duck. And that was just a statement saying, hey, this is real. So our very first, year of really having serious work was just having something that showed this is real. And then to David's point, the bills die after 2 years and you start all over again. And then we got 4 sponsors, 2 in the House, 2 in the Senate, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats. We rewrote the bills, tweaked it after the conversations, and then we took a 2-year journey and got those introduced and built a coalition. And it takes time. So then after those 2 cycles, we went from unknown to now being a very known entity. So that when we went into the 2023-2024 cycle, that's when you saw real momentum happening. People think that we've always been around and that, we're this
30-year-old looks.
yeah, exactly. And, we, in a very short time, went from, hey, we think we have an idea to we have a PR firm, lobby firm, a board. We became a 501c. We've got bills that have been introduced, went through the legislation process, learned a lot, and then came back bigger and stronger. And it was so successful in terms of the messaging and the desire that we had hearings.
At some point, we were so successful, but around the country, I would get calls from LA saying, oh, I heard the bills pass, because we were just so well talked about. I think what makes our trade group work and you can speak to this, is we embrace the process. Like someone said, oh, you guys lost, you didn't get it, did that. It's like, no, 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 no. We have come further than anyone else has ever come before, which re-energizes us for this year. We're embrace the suck, if you ever Google that. We're embracing the process and we're leaning in. We are going to win. We are not going away. And we're going to educate more. I'm getting goosebumps telling you this right now. I mean, I'm just so excited about the opportunities we're going to have, and we're just going to freaking win.
No, I really look at it as the metaphor of you're trying to push that boulder up the mountain, right? And you're not going to get it up with just a couple people. You can get up a little bit, but then you slide back down. And we've been up and down. Now with as much momentum and as many people we've been able to, our rock's up there and we haven't slid back, right? We're still on the mountain. We're just trying to get up further and up over the top. It's just that much harder to reach the top, right? Than it is almost anything else in this world, because you're changing the government. And
anybody that is watching this, you know, the MiFIA.org, you can follow us, you know, to get up to speed on what we're doing. Also, you can donate. You know, when I mentioned that money earlier, there are people that donate $20. There are people that donate $10,000. You know, and the point is not that it's a political campaign, but we have all walks of life participating in this effort to bring film and television and commercials back to Michigan.
Yeah, because as we said earlier, it was written by Michiganders for Michigan. And I think that's a huge difference from a lot of other things that go on and bipartisan. And I think, there is huge pride in our state and our, the locations that we have, the crews, the small businesses. We have a lot to offer. And then when you look at, as this has been building and growing over the years, when we had our hearings, there was over 100 people showed up. We had over 90 minutes of testimony. We were able to get it out of committee unanimously. We were able to move the bills with bipartisan support. And I think, to David's point, this is a journey for everybody. And I know in politics and state governments, you want things to be immediate. But, it takes time to move these things. And that's where when we say we embrace the process, when I signed up on this as a volunteer, I knew it's a long road. And as I told David, I'm a dog with a bone, and I'm just going to keep going until we reach
this that day. I do want to just sidebar for everybody, for your listeners. So back in the day, when I started in the 80s, they would hire location scouts, and they would send 15 people and fly them to different cities, and they'd have 35 millimeter film, and they'd take the pictures, and it would all, FedEx back in, UPS back in, and then they would make decisions on where to film. It was based on the location. For sure, life and death, for sure, your viewers should know, the new algorithms are quite simple. If you go to anyone that's in the film industry that are decision makers, the first question they ask is, what's the incentive? How much is the money? When do I get it? The second question they ask is, what's the crew base? And they ask that because if you go to film in Mississippi and nobody lives in the town you pick, you're going to end up bringing in 200 people and housing and per diem them, which is huge money. It diminishes the value of the incentive. So we recognize that as this bill gets passed, and it will, that it'll be a slower process to build up the crew base as we become competitive. And when his team designed the bill, it's over 9 years, it's designed to have thresholds every 3 years. And the theory would be at 125 million after 3 years, I would expect the state to have 3 or 4 sets of crew base, transportation, hair, locations, and then it will continue to multiply. That is part of the genius of the bill as we grow. And, like anything else, you hire people with no experience, they're thirds or second. It takes time, to move up the food chain. So again, a thoughtful kudos to his team for coming up.
No, appreciate it. I think the other thing too that makes our Multimedia Jobs Act very different from other states is that we know that, you've got movies and TV shows, but commercials and industrials is kind of what builds that crew base. And that's where a bulk of the work is. especially knowing that people don't understand that your movie and TV show folks move into commercials, industrials when they're not doing stuff, and vice versa. So, our program includes what one of the strong suits of Michigan. We have a very robust industrial community. Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we produced more films in Hollywood due to the industrials that we were coming out of here with the big three. So we have a huge history in that type of work. And we know that when you think about it, no matter what industry you're in, you market and advertise. And so that's an area where we know that the entire state is participating and can benefit from a program like this. And I think the other thing that makes our program different is by being a transferable tax credit. The credit stays in Michigan, and only Michigan businesses can use the credit.
That's vital.
So that's a huge part. So we want to make sure that we are getting two investments: the investment of money coming in from out of the state, hiring local businesses and people, and then that's the first economic impact. And then the credit is being received can only be used by a Michigan business. So there's two ways that we are helping all businesses in Michigan thrive.
That gets rid of that Hollywood handout. Right out there, right there. That one thing, by removing it from being to making it a credit, right?
Exactly.
You can't leave the state.
But what are the arguments that you know what? Just the thought before I forget is I do want to do a shout out. Our lobbyist firm is MLC, Brendan Ringlever, who is incredible, actually just won an award. And then our infrastructure, the company that answers the phones and sends out the mail and processes his Edge, also an award-winning 2 years ago in Lansing, and they won an award for marketing terms. So that's part of our infrastructure. We work with the MPA, Motion Picture Association, and they use PAA, and we have together, organically this magnificent team, a guy named Mike Tardoff and Alexander. So we had a 4-person team, like the Four Musketeers, but maybe not exactly, but heading in there. Sorry, I want to get that plug in there before I forget. That's where they're very grateful. We're very grateful. They're paid people, but they're passionate. They don't charge us full rate, and they're passionate about bringing film.
They believe in the state as well.
They believe in the state, and they believe in our messaging that film is good for the state.
Fantastic. Well, this is going great, guys. I'd like to talk a little bit about what that next step is for us. Right, have forward, right? Our portfolio.
I'll start and kick it off and hand it over to you.
I was going to wait right over again. Right, Andrew. Go ahead.
Go. So as we were saying earlier, so we had a really good 2-year session that ended at the end of 2024. I think the big thing when you look at that is you get experience in learning of the bills themselves, the coalition, the bipartisan support. And just like hundreds and hundreds of bills that didn't get voted and passed on at the end of the year, they die, and then you start all over. We had the election, so we have a whole new 2-year session. So what happens is everything starts all over again. I think that's one of the things I just want to make sure that people grasp is that, yes, it's a continuation overall, but you start all over again. So you would have new dynamics, you have new committees. You tweak the bills based upon learnings on the last time, and then you start the process all over again. So there's a reason it's a 2-year cycle, is because it takes time. So, right now, when you look at the future, it is new bill sponsors, new coalition, new ways of working, introducing the bills again. And then you start working towards committees and getting the bipartisan support.
Can I just let his team put together Representative Hoskins and Representative Roth, R's and D's, in the House, were able to, with our assistance, we were able to garner 68 votes in favor of the film incentive being passed, and we only needed 54. So during the process, it was 3 times that we came up to the mound sort of thing, and we didn't get a pitch, so we weren't able to swing, along with hundreds of other people. But our group, our trade group, with the help of those lobbyists, it was pretty incredible to go from 0 to 68, and doubling down on what Alexander. Now we have to start again. So you can't go in with a negative attitude. You just got to go in there. We're going to get it, and we're going to approach it again. There's new leadership, Like I said, it's bipartisan. It's going to be hard work.
Yeah.
This is not going to be simple.
Because I think the other thing that's lost sometimes is, first, we just had an election, so you have a different group of people that are in there. So this isn't just like, oh, cool, that was the end of 2 years. You're just picking up, and no, there's new people, there's a new dynamic, new vision, and so you are starting all over again and finding out what do they value, how do we work with them, and grow. And that's why it's a 2-year process. And we're just so excited, to David's point, about the future, because every single time we've gone in a 2-year cycle, we've gotten farther before, we've gotten better. And then I think the thing I am most proud of over the last, 3 cycles is that we've gotten to a point when we educate and advocate. It's no longer, I think, about the policy. It's about the politics. And what I mean by that is, our bills are pretty sound, and we get a lot of good feedback of like, hey, you guys put a lot of thought into this, of how it benefits the state and gets rid of loopholes and really, can be a driving force. So now it's really kind of then focusing on, how do we get people to work together to support it.
Senator Paul Hunke, you want to take a minute, because she's been incredible also. So the deal was it had to go through the House. Then from the House to the Senate, we had hearings in the House. It got approved and moved up. And then as we go forward, pathway forward, which is where we're headed, we're in the process of assessing. It's almost like that movie Don't Look Up that was on Netflix, right? We're stop and assess. So we're currently assessing where we are with the previous bill sponsors, and Senator Paul Hunke, a very big advocate for what we're doing. We're assessing the relationships with other political entities, and I'll keep it just broad for now. And you'll start to see, I think, the citizens of Michigan will start seeing marketing campaigns and fundraising materials start to come out. Also, obviously, soliciting money and becoming members, and new things coming down the road. And then we're not really ready to get into the weeds right now, but obviously we have to have bills. And the bills would start in the House is the normal pathway forward. So we have some hard work to do. So there's the marketing is coming up in March. Fundraising is also coming up. There'll be a legislative reception we'll have in May and June, where we're talking and selling about the advocating for the film incentive and the why. And then we'll see where we end up.
I think that's where, we as a trade group, we educate and advocate. So these are not.
That's like a tagline. You should get it on a shirt. Maybe a tattoo on your hand.
Well, it's funny because people always assume that this is. People always assume that this is our bills, and they're not our bills. They are our bill sponsors. We educate and advocate. We are the trade group that helps advise on the expertise for it. But in reality, that's where I think people kind of misunderstand. It's their bills. So you find sponsors who want to move this forward, who are interested in it, and then, they craft the bills. We just kind of educate and advocate. And so,
I like that tagline.
I really, well, because
Roundtating there quite a bit. I know.
honestly, because I think there's the misnomer that we are the ones that hold the controls of when hearings happen, and we're the ones that, get the bills done. We are the cheerleaders. We're the industry experts. We can only do that. That's why we elect these officials. So it's in their court, and that's why when we say, yes, donating with us is important, but the most important thing you can do to get the bills passed is you talk to your legislator. You let them know that this is something that you want, because it is the legislators that move it.
That's an interesting point. So the House members, senators work for us. And in the current state of affairs in North America, everybody tends to be apathetic, and we have hard work to do to educate the citizens and residents of Michigan and businesses and the chambers how important it is that they send that email, or pick up the phone and call. And, it's hard to get people motivated to do that. Like, they're in favor of it, but they don't want to make the call, or don't or have a fear of making the call. We haven't figured it out yet.
No, and so over the last 4 or 5 years, MiFIA as a group, and but me specifically, have done a lot of touring around the state to educate and advocate. And
See, you put that plug in there.
yeah,
That he loves this.
and what I thought was interesting is that like, if I'd be in the UP and people are going, hey, what does it matter to me? I'm up in the UP. This is for Detroit or Grand Rapids. It's not for me. And they're like, no. Um, First, the whole point of this is that you can make films anywhere. Being a Multimedia Jobs Act, it's for industrials and marketing, which is done for every business everywhere. But the other thing is you have a voice. Our thing is set up as a state that we have representatives and senators throughout the state. So you have a voice up in the UP and how you see your state moving forward. So that's where it is so critical. And people think that it's not, but the constant letting your legislators know that it's important, that's how things happen.
Well, you certainly wouldn't. You certainly wouldn't have any filming anywhere in the state, as I said earlier, without the incentive. And then when they crafted the incentive, we're not going to see Mission Impossible 16 here because the way the law is written, it is there's no Tom Cruise is going to get $80 million salary, which good for him and God bless him. I love his movies. Can't wait for the second part to come out this summer. Actually, I'm hoping that they'll reinvigorate people going to the theater. The whole generational thing, the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds don't get the joy in the community, which was brought up last night in one of the speeches. I think it was the director of Nora that was talking about it. I think it would help, in addition to be joyful, is to bond the American public. Everybody's in there watching a movie together, feeling the emotion and hearing the message. So I'm hoping they'll get some bounce in the after the Oscars and then after this new Mission Impossible comes out.
Yeah, because 20 years ago, the creator economy didn't really exist. And now the people who are coming up through these creator economies, these passionate people to tell stories, they don't have a path forward beyond just being their own individual YouTuber. And having a program like this, like Multimedia Jobs Act in our state, would actually help that brain drain be capped a little bit, right? Because they don't have a path forward where if you're a creator, you can get into then start doing commercials. You can then make the jump into documentaries and films, and you can find a path into the higher level.
Well, that is, you get into the whole demographics way beyond my brain, but the TikTokers, right? And the 20-year-olds, quick 30 up to 30. Later on, they evolve, right? Now they're like, maybe they're married, kids, blah, blah, blah. They don't really have the time they're going to be looking for as they grow. They're going to be looking for movie theaters, which I hope will still be around, where you can go get some popcorn and hang out for the day.
Well, so like one of the things right now that's interesting is I'm teaching at Oakland University a couple of courses. And
Where don't they go to sign up to get to one of your classes?
Oakland University, so Oakland EDU. But I think one of the things that is really interesting when you look at the students, I mean, they are passionate, they're hungry, and super creative. And all of them are, okay, hey, great. So when we're done here, should I go? Is it Atlanta, Chicago, New York, LA? Nobody says, hey, what can I do here? Because they know there's nothing here. And that's kind of like one of the most disheartening things is you see this huge talent of creativity that the state makes just leaving.
We have you have Michigan now. There's two new programs. One's in Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, and one's in the state of West Virginia. Both of them with no sunset. And those are the next one. I said there were 45, and those are the next two states that are developing programs. And doggone it, we have this stuff ready to go 2 years ago, and we need to leapfrog in front of them and get serious about it. And when we compete for filming for Michigan, if we had an incentive, they would compete against Illinois, which has a deeper crew base. I just think Michigan will be a fresher, shiny new toy, when we start up, and then we'll have a couple of years to build up that crew base and businesses. The way the film incentive was set up is, we get rid of the carpetbaggers, the people who are just coming and leaving, and it's set up to incentivize businesses to buy property, to hire local, grow the industry. Rather, most of the incentives, our competitors, they say kind of silent on that. We address that, so we'll see.
Well, I think, the other thing that I really like about the Multimedia Jobs Act is that, one, it's a 10-year program. So, that gives you the ability to slowly grow over time, which is important. And then two, if it doesn't work, there's a sunset. So those are some important things. I think the other part is that a program like this brings in $6 to $8 billion over the 10 years in direct spend of economic activity here in the state, most of it that wouldn't be here otherwise.
You weren't able to slide in there, educate and advocate. Like, I was a little disappointed. I want to get up to double digits, during our processors.
A little counter in the corner.
Yes. Could come on the side. You could put it up on the screen when you do this, right? Educate and advocate. Do like a stick out every time he says so. Because it counts when I say it.
It does. Well, because I want people to know that these are not our bills. Okay. And that's why you have to talk to your legislators. We can only do that part of it to help move it along and cheerlead.
I think I'll say it another way. As we advocate and educate, I switched it up a little bit. That can only go so far. It really comes up to the Michiganders at all level, businesses and individuals, making a difference by sending that email and making that call to the senator and legislator. Without that, it just really becomes problematic. So it is helpful for those that are listening to pay attention to who those people are. You go on the website and just send them a note.
Yeah. And when I've talked to legislators, that is one of the things where they know when this last go around, I've had many legislators go, hey, my office just got blown up today with tons of phone calls and emails. And the reason that people know MiFIA and the Multimedia Jobs Act in Lansing is not because MiFIA is there. It's because they're getting the resounding support from the constituents. And that's really what moves the needle.
Right. So when we start this pathway forward, you mentioned earlier, for right now, the beginning is to do fundraising, which again isn't so fun, but it's very, very necessary. When we raised that money last year, every dollar was spent. There's no money left over. We really did the full-on Monty to make it happen, committed. So now we're regrouping. So for those of your listeners that are here today, my plea is, if you have a passion for film in the state, please step up. It doesn't matter what dollar amount you send in. Watch for the stuff. You can join online and click your credit card. You can, it's very simple, very fast, but anything can help. And more importantly, tell your friends. If everybody told 4 people or 5 people about what we're trying to do, and everybody I would rather have 20,000 people donate $20 than have one giant check, because I want the community, the state, the Michiganders to be part of the solution. Because if we get it passed, we're going to need everyone's participation to move it forward.
Yeah, I think everybody would know a young person these days that would benefit from a program like this.
And us old people. That's true. Yeah, we're still people here that work.
That's right.
And we with local IATSE local 38, Joe Miller, and also the Teamsters local 337, Jim Barinello, were very, very assistant helping us with fundraising. And we're in Lansing repetitively. So we had labor involved. We had camera, Union Local 600 involved. It was really inspiring as people came together. There was really no begging people around and just stepping up. So hopefully.
Thank you for thanking those people, because I was just about to bring them up on how much support this.
It's not a competition, but I beat you.
You got beat me to the bunch. Okay. But they've been so supportive, and we really wouldn't be here without that labor force right behind us.
Even the MPA helped get involved and spent time and paid for lobbyists to help us. And the MPA represents the big majors, right?
The Ocean Picture Association has been really critical in helping. And I think, that's where, when you look at the coalition, we have the Motion Picture Association, which is the trade group that represents all the major studios. We have SAG, after us. We have all the actors involved. We have IATSE and the Teamsters and the crews. We have AICP, which is the commercials producer. So we have all of the industries and trade groups
And now the universities.
and the universities all behind this. And then, you also look at, we talk about the talent and the crew base. We also have the locations. I mean, there's very few states that have the diversity that we have.
I don't know any other place that can have an East Coast sunrise and a West Coast sunset. Oh my God! Besides Florida, but it just looks like Florida, right? You can go to so many different diversity locations here. That is in a couple hours.
That's better than educate and advocate. East and West.
Please do
outage. There's no competition there, but
And, so you have, the sunrise and sunset, which is unheard of. You also then get the diversity in weather. So we have all 4 seasons here. We have a lot of urban and rural beaches and mountains. We call them hills, but,
Plus, the diversity of the people here is so complex, right? From different, I mean, we're such a mixing pot here in Metro Detroit, but across the state, it gets very unique culture and in so many little towns that have so much history, and you just don't see some of that charm that you see in other states. And I think that's one of the reasons why Hollywood loved coming here so much, is we had such a welcoming community.
it's being around film at any level is a feel good. I was at an event 2 nights ago, and it was around the mayor of Kingstown. People were there, and I ended up having a 10-15-minute conversation with Jeremy Renner. And when I walked away, this was on Saturday, when I walked away, I get with actors all the time around in my business, but I walked away, I was aware that I actually felt pretty good. And I was just talking to Jeremy Renner. I don't know why, objectively, why I felt good, because, he's not going to remember who I am. But that positive energy of filming, and people see an actor in a city and they go from here, and then they film there, right? So they film there. So, the upside benefit is also it reinforces tourism. The American culture is people want to travel. People want to see stuff, right? The Ball of Yarn, whatever it is, Grand Canyon. And anything that's put in film that is a Michigan site is there in perpetuity. Think about that. Right? Marketing, Pure Michigan, all that stuff. Anything that's shot, and it's not just about Detroit, it's any location. I was chatting with someone in Louisiana, and he was a manager of a hotel, and he told me this story that there was a guy from England that came, and they stayed at his hotel. And how did they find that hotel? It was featured on NCIS New Orleans. Right? So people see things, and they want to go. And in Pennsylvania, in particular, they call them the Rocky Steps, which is in front of the museum. No one even calls it the museum. The Rocky Steps. They're still running up the steps, right, putting their hands up. My point is, in our society these days, we need to find something like this to change the narrative, and less drama, less anger, and more feel good.
Well, speaking of feel good, so you think about just how impact the creative economy has. You talked about the Rocky Steps. The other one that always comes to mind is Field of Dreams. So they build a baseball field in Iowa. They have a museum, and people go to visit this thing in the middle of Iowa, and it grows. And next thing you know, they build a real ballpark, and then it gets
MLB's as a game,
right. Then the Major League Baseball decides to build a stadium and have a game. And it went so well that then they said, well, this isn't good enough long term. We have to actually build a better stadium to then have it. So think about that. So Major League Baseball now has an annual game that they play, and
based on a movie.
Add
those numbers up for ROI, right?
So it just keeps building and growing. And Iowa, is kind of, only has a lot of one look. Nothing against them. And you look at a state like Michigan, there's such a diversity. And, Georgia right now has over, I think it's $172 million annually is in film tourism. Just in Georgia, from that little peach at the end. Imagine if we have a Made in Michigan logo, what that would do.
We could only hope we could set par. I want to talk real quick about one of my Woodward Visionary questions here, because you put so much effort, Alexander, into spending the time at Lansing. Describe the battle you are fighting the Nillen Seas.
Ooh, it's a good question. I think the thing for me is I am just so passionate about this because it's a no-brainer and how much benefit that the entire state sees. And so for me, it's about just getting people to understand how this can be a game changer. That's helps everybody. And that's, people talk about winners and losers. And I'm like, yeah, the winners are the state of Michigan and the labor force. So yes, I am picking winners and losers. I'm picking Michigan.
Fantastic. David, do you think we're influencing the playing field, or are we just reacting to it?
I think we're educating and advocating, but I think we have to play catch up. And I think it's the recognition of playing catch up. You'll hear, the adult conversation is you'll hear from the Mackinac Center, which are really, really good people. And they have a philosophy, how they look at things. They have a set of glasses they look through, and they'll analyze their program saying that, you can't spend $100 million in taxes and get back $100 million in tax income. And they're absolutely correct. And you could apply that to any government program, pure Michigan education. It's just too broad and an oversimplified model. So once you get past what I just said, that those scales don't apply, it's kind of where Alexander is. It's a no-brainer. If we want to compete in film in modern times, knowing that there's 105 programs and 45 in the U.S., then we have to pay the toll to compete, which is to have a program, but not an overly generous program, a smart program where the money's monitored, it's audited, it's not crazy, and there's a film office, that does their job. I just feel like in Michigan, we're going to be doing it way better. And how do we get there? Just like Georgia learned from Michigan, we learned from Georgia and Pennsylvania and New York, and we took the best of theirs and enhanced it, even more. So I guess if we're reacting, and we have to catch up. And then hopefully, because we're creative, strong creative community here, hopefully we'll leapfrog from other states, and then they'll copy what we're doing. Yeah. Right? It's the American way. Get better, get smarter. Right?
Well, I think when you think about that, so I said earlier, this is the creative economy is one of the top 5 growing in the world. And we are being left behind on where the world is going. And if you are not then participating in the creative economy that's growing so much, you are being totally left behind. So you want to be part of that. And, we know that not only do these programs work, but it is important to the success of a state. Your multimedia, TV, commercials, industrials, film, it is, ever since COVID, the amount of content creation has skyrocketed, and it's only going to get bigger and better. So if we that's where the world is going, and we want to make it here, we have to participate. Otherwise, it will be elsewhere.
You just sparked a thought that I don't think we emphasized earlier. So one of the very, very cool things about the program is, governments give out grants, and like for solar or EV, and they pay the money up front. The way this is set up is, Paramount Pictures comes in, they spend their money, 50 million, 100 million of qualified spend, and then we give them the credit 2 years later, whenever they're done. So there's no risk to the state. They have to spend the money to get the money. And I've always, as a business person, I hold that in great value.
So cash outlay is a big problem, right? Just spend money and have it go right out the door, right? Not in our price. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's you. Yeah, it's not you. They have to earn it.
They earn it, and it has to be a system that they have to keep it here in some way because it's a tax credit.
Correct. It has to be a qualified spend. It has to be Michigan money, which stays here, and that's really, really big. So people sort of use the ROI. We feel the number could be from $1 to $4 or $1 to $6. the more businesses develop in Michigan as a result of the incentive, the more infrastructure, the more crew, the more the ROI is. When they bring in, it'll be a little challenging in the beginning because we don't have the crew base, we don't have the depth. So they'll be bringing people in that will assist us, local labor, making the movie. But I'm doing a job right now about Milton Hershey, and they want to do it in Pennsylvania. And the producers are only about, I want to hire local, I want to hire local, I want to hire local. If they have a local person with not as much of experience and an out-of-town person with a lot of experience, guess what? They're going to hire the local. So, and that's how we grow. That's exactly how it works at ground level.
Well, I think another important thing recently, with the Multimedia Jobs Act, there's some states, Illinois being one, that has commercials and corporate videos. Marketers move their headquarters to those states. Okay. Recently, because we don't have a program, GM moved all of their commercial and advertising work out of the state. It just left. It went to either New York or states that had an incentive program. So out of the big three, we lost 1/3 of all of our marketing and production spent.
That's insane. That's insane. For being the automotive capital of the world, to send our marketing outside the state,
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense.
So, I mean, that's where you see really impact of how a program like this is. Not only are we trying to bring work in here, we want to keep the work that we do have. They're going elsewhere. They're leaving.
And the companies that produce those commercials and the crew base that works on the commercials follow the work. So that means our population declines and the taxpayer base goes down, and less income going into the coffers of the state. It just keeps manifesting the wrong way.
Yeah, and David was mentioning about the program that they have to spend the money first. That's the other benefit, is that if the program doesn't work, it doesn't cost the state anything. And what I mean by that is, if they don't come here and spend the money, then there is no credit.
One of my favorite, from going to Lansing, one of my favorite pitches or recital is, can you do the stadium? Oh, and this is watch his eyes twinkle. It's like when he's saying this to the legislators, he's empowered. His shoulders go back. He doesn't smile very much, I'm sure you know. He starts smiling. He's so into this story. So, cut to Alexander.
So, you look at the Super Bowl, or, recently even just the Lions playoff home games. Okay. A Super Bowl brings in somewhere between, 30 and $100 million worth economic spend to the city that hosts it. Okay. People are not bidding to try to get the Super Bowl for 50,000 tickets. And so that's the same thing here. I mean, you have to not look at this as, oh, hey, I'm just trying to get 50,000 tickets. I'm trying to get that economic impact that transcends having the game. And so that's the same thing here. You bring a program in. It's not about just that few little bit of dollars. It's about everything else that comes around.
It's about the restaurants. It's about the hotels. It's about the airlines flying in and out, right? And also about other commercials that are shot, and everyone else's marketing gearing up to that day. It just trickles down so far. It's one of my favorite speeches. Thank you, Alexander.
Oh, you're welcome. So I think that a program, the Multimedia Jobs Act, it is for everybody in Michigan. And not having a program means that we are going to continue to brain drain. We are going to continue to not diversify our economy. And we're going to be losing businesses to go to other states. So, we have to invest in our future as a state, and hopefully people feel the same.
So to take action, you need to go to MiFIA.org, sign up to be a member, follow us with our newsletter, We're going to be at a lot of events this year for the community, both professionals and amateurs alike. So really be able to get an opportunity to meet new people. These are community growing events, right? We're continuing to get out there in the communities. These are held all over the state. So make sure you guys look in your area for one. There'll be definitely one coming to your town or region here this year. We're going to be doing a lot of fun events. They're centered around some fundraising, but also more importantly about building that community and getting the word out.
And if your viewers, they want to know what's going on, they can send an email, and it'll be a couple of days to respond because we're all volunteers. But if anybody wants to know what's going on, if they're a member, like someone calls me, they want to know something, my first question is, are you a member of MiFIA? If you're not a member, I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to, do what I'm doing and bust my butt. And then someone wants advice like, hey, cop up the $20, the $50, whatever it is. All right. Be part of it. Is that too harsh? Is it?
No, it's not. But the thing that always inspires me is that we are unpaid volunteers. This is a group of people. Like I said, we don't have celebrities on the board. We are the hardworking people that do all the work. And, we are not Hollywood, we're Michigan. And I think that's the thing that people need to understand.
That might equal advocate and actually I might example. We're not Hollywood, we're Michigan.
Yes.
We could brand that.
That's a t-shirt.
Get a little that t-shirt. You think it's after the t-shirt category? Maybe a coffee mug? I don't know.
Yeah, because I live in Linden, not Hollywood. Matt, where are you at?
I live in Livonia, not Hollywood.
All right. So you see what I'm saying? Like, and then we know that there are people who want to move back here. Okay.
There were so many people that influx professionals.
There are still people that are in Georgia that left here back in 2010, 11, 12. They still have their homes here. The quality of life, sometimes it gets lost in the mix. We're focusing on the movie and the work. The quality of life, the school systems, the house system, right? The Four Seasons. People who have left here have kept their homes and would gladly move back. But if this were to pass, they're not coming back that day. That they would leapfrog right 1 foot on either side of the fence. And just thinking, right now, it's like, oh yeah, if that were to happen, we could get at least one experienced crew, which would manifest into two. It starts with one, then the two, then the three.
Well, before we wrap up here, I want to give our listeners a quick summary of each of our guests so you guys know who we were talking to all day.
Oh,
do you want to go, or you want me to eat something fancy?
No. So my name's David Haddad. I own an equipment business. You can Google us. We work mostly in the Northeastern corridor. I rent the trucks and trailers that they use for the actors and the haul equipment. So in Michigan, it would be the Michigan Teamsters drive it. In New York, it would be the New York Teamsters drive it. So we provide the opportunity for people to grow. I'm very passionate about the film industry. I think it's an incredible industry. It's niche. It's not for everyone, I mentioned earlier. But you could have a great quality of life. You can feel that you're part of the solution. And, I sit there and watch movies and credits, and I went, oh, I did that one. Oh, I did that one. And even my employees just have a sense like everybody has a part or something that's greater than themselves. So, my takeaway for the viewers is if you're thinking about it, you have great school systems here, the unions here, the Teamsters, IATSE, and Camera, everybody gets it, everybody's waiting. So hopefully we could band together, and bring film here. What was that tagline we said?
Educate, advocate?
Not the other one, the new one.
No, I'm from Michigan, not Hollywood.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you again, M1 Studios. It's an incredible facility, by the way. You guys, if you're listening, you have to come in and just see their lobby. This lobby is so freaking creative that you're going to want to take pictures in front of it. The heck with the rocky steps. Come to M1 and get your picture in the
Oh man, that'd be so much, David. I know you get to see so many places, so I really appreciate that. Alexander, tell us a little.
Well, but before I do that, again, I want to say thank you for having us, Matthew. I mean, you're a vital part of the board, and the fact that you have just such a great and amazing studio that you allowed us to come into in the heart of Ferndale, a huge creative center here. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, M1's trying to be a home for creators, right? And that's the home for anybody who creates across the board.
And then how can they get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
They
Put that on this?
Yeah, they can check out M1 Studios. That's m-1studios.com. We're here in Ferndale, Michigan.
Excellent. And so I'm Alexander Page. I produce and direct TV commercials and photography. I also have been teaching at universities, currently at Oakland University, film. And the reason I bring any of that stuff up is that I am just very passionate about the um, movie making, commercials, multimedia industry, the creative industry. I think that is just, what inspires me to get up every day and seeing, students that are coming up and the excitement, and then, working with people. People, I think, don't understand that when you are in this type of world, you are just collaborating. It's hard work, but it is so rewarding. And I think the biggest thing for me is it's never about the end product. It doesn't matter what you're making. It's the journey that everybody takes on it. And you can't describe that to people. And it is just magical. And so having that here is what inspires me.
Well, David and Alexander, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your vision with us today. I think our state owes you both a great deal of thanks for how much effort and time you're putting in to help improve and grow our great state here. So thank you very much. And to our audience, thank you very much for watching, everybody. My name is Matthew Peach. This has been the Woodward Visionary, and we'll see you next time.